picture this. It's a Tuesday night. You pack a small bag, head over to this clinic with those fluorescent lights, and they give you a bed that is definitely not yours. Then a technician comes in and spends, I don't know, 45 minutes gluing wires to your head, taping sensors by your eyes, clipping things to your fingers.
Strapping bands around your chest. It's a whole process.
The classic sleep study, right? And you're usually there because, your partner's sick of you snoring, or you're just exhausted all the time and have no idea why.
And you get the results back, and historically, they're pretty binary. You either have sleep apnea or you don't. You have narcolepsy or you don't.
Exactly. The doctor comes in and says, well, you stop breathing 10 times an hour. Here's your CPAP machine. But what if that same doctor walked in, sat you down and said, look, your sleep itself was fine, but our computer analyzed your brain waves and your heart rhythm, and it turns out you have an 89% risk of developing Parkinson's in the next few years.
And by the way, we need to screen you for prostate cancer immediately.
That sounds like complete science fiction.
It did. But as of January 6, 2026, with this new SleepFM paper in Nature Medicine, that scenario is, well, it's basically reality.
We are diving deep into that paper today. It's from this huge team at Stanford Medicine, and they're introducing this idea of SleepFM. And the whole premise is that we've been looking at sleep all wrong.
Completely wrong.
Been treating it like a check engine light for just being tired, when actually it's this incredibly high-fidelity data stream for the entire human body.
The shift in perspective here is it's enormous. So the mission for this deep dive is to unpack how they built an AI model that can look into that data stream and see the risk for over 130 different diseases.
And a lot of these diseases you'd think have nothing to do with sleep. We're talking kidney disease, heart failure, even cancer.
Yes, even cancer.
But before we get to the crystal ball part of this, we have to talk about the data they used. Because I think for most of us, sleep data is that little graph on our smartwatch.
Right.
The study wasn't using that, was it?
No, not at all. I mean, consumer wearables are great, but they're basically toys compared to what Stanford used. They relied on polysomnography, or PSG. That's the gold standard.
And a PSG, it's not just recording if you're tossing and turning. It's a massive amount of simultaneous inputs.
Think of it less like a recording and more like a symphony. A full PSG captures the EEG, so that's your brain's electrical activity.
Right.
It gets the EOG, which is eye movement, so you can pinpoint REM sleep. Then there's EMG for muscle tone, the ECG for every single heartbeat.
Plus breathing, blood oxygen.
It's everything. It's a concert of biology. The heart, the brain, the lungs, all playing together.
And that's the key, right? That they're all playing together.
Exactly. And for decades, doctors were just listening for the really obvious sour notes. Did the breathing stop? Did the legs kick? If not, all that other data, gigabytes of it, was basically thrown in the trash. It was just noise.
That feels like such a tragedy in medical data, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You collect terabytes of info and use, 1% of it?
So Emmanuel Mignot and James Zhu at Stanford decided to stop throwing it away. They wanted to train an AI to listen to the whole symphony.
But to do that, you need a training set that is just exponentially larger than anything a human doctor could see in a lifetime.
And this is where the scale of this study becomes almost hard to comprehend. Most academic sleep studies look at maybe 500 patients, 1,000 if it's a really big one.
Right.
SleepFM was trained on nearly 585,000 hours of sleep recordings.
Wow. 500,000 hours?
From about 65,000 different people. And the diversity is what makes it so powerful. It's not just 40-year-old men with apnea. This data set went from 2-year-old toddlers all the way up to 96-year-olds.
So it's seeing sleep across the entire human lifespan. And they fed all this raw data into what they call a foundation model. I feel like we hear that term all the time now with things like ChatGPT.
It's the buzzword of the decade, for sure, but it's the right term here. A foundation model is it's an AI designed to learn the deep underlying structure of a data type. ChatGPT learned the structure of language.
Grammar, context, all that.
Right. SleepFM ingested all those hours of waveforms to learn the language of sleep.
But language has grammar, rules. Does sleep have grammar?
It absolutely does. The grammar is the relationship between all those different sensors. They used a technique called contrastive learning to teach it to the AI.
Okay, let's slow down on contrastive learning. How does that actually work here?
So imagine you're giving the AI 2 puzzle pieces. You give it a 5-second snippet of brain waves and a 5-second snippet of heart rate from the same person at the exact same moment. The model learns, okay, these two fit together. They're a positive pair.
Got it.
Then you give it a snippet of breathing data from a totally different person. And the model learns, nope, these do not fit together.
So it's just playing a massive game of match the pattern millions and millions of times.
Pretty much. It starts to learn that this specific spike in brain activity usually happens right alongside the specific dip in heart rate variability. It gets so good you can actually hide one of the signals.
You can just remove it.
Yeah, you can mask the breathing channel, for instance, and the model can reconstruct what it should look like just by looking at the heart and the brain.
That is seriously impressive. It's like it builds a complete picture of the body's state. But okay, you have to prove it works. They talk about F1 scores in the paper.
Right, and we should clarify, an F1 score isn't just simple accuracy.
No, because accuracy can be really misleading.
Exactly. I could build a model that just says, you're healthy to everyone, and if the disease is rare, I'll be 99% accurate, but totally useless. An F1 score balances being right with not missing the thing you're looking for.
The needle in the haystack.
Right. For the basic stuff, like staging sleep, SleepFM got F1 scores between 0.70 and 0.78, which might sound a little low, but that's actually about the same as the agreement rate between two human experts.
Humans disagree on this stuff all the time.
All the time. And for apnea detection, it was up at 0.87 accuracy, so it's as good as a doctor at the stuff doctors already do.
But that's the boring part. The magic, the reason we're doing this deep dive is the other stuff. The disease prediction. They use the C index for this.
Yes, the C index, or concordance index. It's a measure of reliability. 0.5 is a coin flip. 1.0 is a perfect crystal ball. In medicine, anything over 0.7 is good, and over 0.8 is considered really strong.
Okay, so let's run down the list. Let's start with the brain, because that feels, the most connected to sleep.
The neurological predictions were incredibly strong. For Parkinson's disease, SleepFM hit a C index of 0.89.
Oh, wow.
For dementia, it was 0.85.
That 0.89 for Parkinson's that's extremely high. That implies the sleep signal is carrying a very, very clear fingerprint of the disease.
And it suggests that fingerprint shows up years before the tremors or the cognitive decline. The brain's electrical organization during sleep starts to change in a specific way long before you see symptoms during the day.
Okay, that makes intuitive sense to me. A degenerative brain disease is going to affect sleep. But this is where I started getting skeptical reading the paper. It claims high predictive power for cancer.
Specifically, prostate cancer at 0.89 and breast cancer at 0.87.
It's the finding that makes everyone pause.
So explain the mechanism to me. How does a sensor on my head know I have a tumor in my prostate? That feels a bit like astrology.
It does, until you stop thinking of the cancer as just a local lump and start thinking of it as a systemic event that's stressing the entire body. A tumor isn't just sitting there quietly.
Right.
It's demanding a blood supply, it's causing inflammation, it's triggering an immune response, and most importantly, it messes with your autonomic nervous system.
The ANS, that's the control system for all the automatic heart rate, breathing.
Correct. And the most sensitive way to measure the health of your AMS is heart rate variability, or HRV. These tiny, tiny fluctuations in time between your heartbeats. When your body is under systemic stress, like from a growing cancer, that variability changes.
So the AI isn't seeing the tumor. It's hearing the body's very quiet alarm bell ringing in the heart's rhythm. That's the theory. It's detecting the physiological cost of the disease, the micro tremors of that stress response. And that's also why it works so well for cardiovascular issues. It predicted mortality from any cause with a 0.84 C index.
Okay, that makes the how feel much more plausible. But let's talk about the methodology. How do we know it's really predicting and not just, cheating?
The cheating problem is huge in AI research.
Yeah.
So the team was incredibly careful here. They did this massive retrospective linkage. They took 35,000 sleep studies from the archives, some going all the way back to 1999.
Wow.
And they linked every single one of those patients to 25 years of their electronic health records. They built a complete timeline for every person.
And they had a strict rule, right? The time travel rule.
A very strict rule. They use these things called fee codes, which are just a clean way of categorizing diseases from messy billing codes. And they said, we only count a diagnosis as a successful prediction if it appeared in the medical record at least 7 days after the sleep study was done.
So if you have the study on a Monday and get diagnosed on Wednesday, the AI gets zero credit for that.
Exactly. And for many patients, the diagnosis came years later. This is the proof that the signal in the sleep data came first. It wasn't reading the chart. It was forecasting what the chart would say in the future.
That validation is absolutely crucial. Okay, so Even with all this success, we have to talk about the black box problem. This comes up with every deep learning model. We know that it works, but do we know why it works?
Not really. And that's the biggest hurdle for getting this into clinics. It's like a drug-sniffing dog at the airport. The dog sits down next to a bag, with very high reliability that there are drugs in there.
But the dog can't tell you what it smelled.
Right. It just signals target. SleepFM is the dog. It looks at your sleep data and sits down. It says high risk for kidney disease. The doctor asks, why? What did you see? And the AI just says, because the math told me so.
That's a really hard thing to explain to a patient.
It is. You don't want to tell someone they're at risk for something serious without being able to point to the biological reason why. Now, the paper says they're working on interpretability, but right now, it's an oracle.
And what about the hardware? This was all trained on that gold standard PSG data.
Ooh,
Can we ever
yeah.
get this onto a smartwatch?
That's the billion-dollar question. It's the holy grail. But there's a huge fidelity gap. Your watch gives you a decent heart rate and a rough guess at sleep stages from movement. It does not give you EEG brainwaves.
Not even close.
Not with any clinical precision. So if you run this amazing model on low-quality data, you're probably going to get low-quality predictions. Garbage in, garbage out.
So maybe the future is something in between. Not a full lab setup, but maybe a better wearable.
That's the hope. Maybe we find out that, say, HRV is 90% of the predictive power. Then we can just build a device that measures that with extreme precision. We might not need the whole symphony, maybe just the lead violin.
Which brings us to the biggest question of all. The so what? Let's just assume this all works. In 5 years, I wear some simple device, it uploads to SleepFM, and I wake up to a notification on my phone. High risk of Alzheimer's detected.
And this is the ethical minefield of predictive medicine. Knowledge is power, but only if you can act on it. If I tell you that you're at high risk for heart disease, that is incredibly actionable. We'll change your diet, maybe start you on a statin, get you exercising.
Prediction literally saves your life.
Right. But if I tell you that you have a high risk of Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, today, our toolkit for those diseases is pretty limited.
So does that just create this anxiety factor?
Yeah.
A whole population of people who are perfectly healthy,
Yeah.
but living in terror of a probability score on their phone.
It's a real risk. It completely changes the job of a doctor. You're not just treating sickness anymore. You're managing a person's risk portfolio.
But I guess the flip side is that medicine has been reactive for thousands of years. We wait for something to break, then we try to fix it.
Yeah.
This lets us be proactive.
I think we have to move in this direction, even for something like Alzheimer's. Knowing 10 years in advance might let you make lifestyle changes that could delay the onset, even if they don't cure it.
Or it could speed up drug development because now you can find the right patients for a trial before they're too sick.
That is the big hope, yes.
It's a fascinating and slightly terrifying future. Stanford has taken the most passive thing we do, sleeping, and turned it into maybe the most active diagnostic tool we've ever had.
It's a complete redefinition of the night.
Right.
We used to think of sleep as the brain just shutting down. Now we know it's the body broadcasting its daily status report.
I want to leave everyone with a final thought for tonight. We all have that check engine light in our car, and when it comes on, you take it to the shop because you know something's wrong under the hood. If this technology scales, your body's about to get its own check engine light, and it's going to blink while you're dreaming. The question is, are we ready to look at the dashboard?
The body is talking, and we're finally building the translator.
Thanks for diving in with us. Sleep well. We'll catch you on the next one.